Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome back to Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent role-playing game. This week I'm going to take a look at the sequel to a game I covered last week, Artifact Adventure Gaiden. A retro-style RPG with an action combat system, it was developed by Bluffman and published by AGM Playism, and released on Steam on January 9th, 2018. I covered the prior game last week, as I said, and like that one, Artifact Adventure Gaiden is a retro RPG inspired by old-school console and handheld role-playing games. However, Artifact Adventure Gaiden takes its graphical and audio cues from the Game Boy system, which means a green-tinged monochrome, low-pixel graphic setup, and a particular quality of music that may not appeal to everybody. As far as story goes, it begins with a cutscene of two soldiers speaking of some sort of cataclysm to come. It then cuts to the main character speaking with the king, who tells the player that in 3 years a cataclysm will indeed sweep over the land, and it is up to the player to gather allies and power, and help ready the country for what is to come. Similar to Artifact Adventure Gaiden then lets the player quit at any moment, just by telling the king that they're ready for the upcoming cataclysm. The game then fast-forwards 3 years and resolves everything based on the choices that the player made and what quests that they did. I kind of really like the way that it's handled like that. Aside from the main character, whose name can be chosen, characters may then select companions. The first of these companions is chosen from one of 3 major companions, and then 2 more are selected from available minor volunteers of various sorts throughout the main castle. Interestingly enough, these companions don't actually directly join you in battle, but rather grant additional abilities. For instance, one of the 3 main companions is a swordsman who may appear when summoned to execute one major attack, while minor companions may simply grant flat bonuses, such as increasing the effects of certain potions. Now, although this is a sort of sequel, there are a fair number of differences from the first game, and I'll address those as they come up. Exploration is done on a world map, but then focuses in when you enter cities, castles, homes, caves, and so forth. The main character may equip certain equipment, as well as certain skills and items. As far as ability scores go, they simply have hit points and experience as the main abilities, but may also equip things that increase the amount of hit points each enemy kill grants, their movement speed, life orb discovery chance, item discovery chance, things such as consecutive hit chances, critical hit chance and damage, overall damage bonus, then bonuses on various weapons specifically. Skills can be equipped that also give either flat bonuses or special abilities during combat. Of note is the return of the artifacts from the first game, which may increase abilities or grant skills. However, these are accompanied by other items, such as knives and torches that can be thrown in combat, or things like kindling and bombs to clear certain terrain features. Overall, there's more options in this game, or at least it seems that way. During overworld exploration, certain potential random combats may spawn. Rather than simply blurring over into a battle screen, this spawns a number of different enemy icons, which you can then avoid manually. This is very much reminiscent of Zelda 2's random monster encounters. There are also fixed encounters, such as spiders' nests or whirlpools, which may be interacted with to start combat. Some of these fixed encounters allow you to bypass them with certain items. Combat, however, is radically different from the prior game. Combat opens up onto a combat screen where waves of enemies appear. The character may then run and jump and dodge around them. Encountering them with your weapon automatically attacks, as does letting them run into the weapon itself, and some creatures and weapon combinations are actually better handled by simply remaining still. During combat, you may also get certain abilities to trigger, such as the aforementioned artifact skills, swordsman, or throwing knives. These are all on a recharge timer, and you may have up to 3 equipped at any one time. Things like the knives and torches consume ammunition, although you can generally recover some during a fight. During combat, hitting enemies may grant hit points based on the hit point recovery rate, and after enemies die they may drop health orbs that replenish a decent number of hit points. This is important because there's often no way to avoid getting hit in some combats. Fortunately, after some types of combats, your hit points may be replenished, and between combats you can also use potions, which are a random drop in and of themselves, to replenish hit points as well. I have to admit that the combat system took me a little bit of getting used to, although I found it quite fun once I got into it. You really do have to think over which types of weapons suit your playstyle, not only for the raw damage they offer, but also for the hit range and hit type. It provides a bit of strategy when you also consider the various enemy types and the available artifacts and secondary items at your disposal. Once you get enough experience through combat, you simply level up on the spot. There's no ability scores to allocate or skill points to assign, it's just an automatic, on-the-fly event that can happen even during combat. In terms of general play, the game does seem to follow the original's queue as far as having quests with meaningful choices. However, the number of quests has been somewhat diluted in terms of game area. The areas I've seen so far seem to be less dense than the ones in the prior game. However, this has given the world a feel of being substantially larger, at least from a gameplay perspective. There is a fast travel mode to offset this that lets you jump back to any major settlement you've visited, so that can be a real time saver on the overworld. I have to admit that the keyboard controls are a little awkward at first, but they get more bearable over time. So how do the graphics and music stack up? Artifact Adventure Gaiden does seek to mimic the Game Boy's aesthetics, but although it gets the color scheme and the overall pixels per tile right, I don't think it really does a good job in this area, at least not as good as Artifact Adventure did for mimicking the original Nintendo Entertainment System, largely because of the fact that it is widescreen, and the user interface and text boxes in this game take full advantage of that additional screen real estate. Likewise, although the music is artfully produced to mimic the Game Boy style chipset, it seems just a little bit too clean. This may not be an entirely bad thing because, let's face it, the Game Boy may have been many things, but without nostalgia glasses on, it was really not exactly pleasant to play for extended periods of time, at least not to me. Overall, it is a much nicer game to look at and listen to as a result of this, but I do have to wonder if the sacrifice of color and note ranges were really worth it, if the mimicry really doesn't go all the way. Still, if you can handle the monochrome style graphics and the retro look and feel, Artifact Adventure Gaiden is still a pleasant little excursion. If you are a fan of the original Artifact Adventure, this one will deliver quite a bit of the same, although the combat may be a sticking point, since it is by far the furthest departure. My recommendation is to watch out for a sale on this one, and only if you like the retro console style RPG feel. And on that note, I'll leave it off for this week. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Artifact Adventure Gaiden. The link will be in the description below as always. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. If you're feeling particularly generous, I do have a Patreon that goes towards supporting this channel at patreon.com/rpgcrawler. Until next time, take care and goodbye.